But then when they, all the lockdowns were there, the kids couldn't go to school. They had to do school online. And you had parents looking over the shoulders of their children in 2021 and being shocked.
I am so excited today to be joined by Tamra Farah. She is the Executive Director of Moms for America. Tamra, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So, Tamra, you lead this organization, Moms for America, that's all about mobilizing moms to be powerful, to be these powerful forces in their own communities.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what you all do and what your work is.
First of all, I have to just shout out to our president and founder, Kimberly Fletcher. She has been in this since 2004 when she launched this organization, and we have engaged over 500,000 moms since then.
Wow.
And we're wanting to double and triple that, because the more we can come alongside moms and support them and encourage them and equip them, just that much more effective they're going to be, because we do know that now they are awake. Now they've made the time, because government is coming between them and their children, and they will not stand for it.
Yeah. So what is your story? How did you become a passionate individual who said, you know what, there needs to be action taken here, and
Yes.
as moms, we need a voice to stand up for the values that we have, to push back on what we're seeing happening in schools?
Yes.
How did you get involved?
I'm a mom. Our kids are now 32 and 28, but they had a couple of different experiences in their schooling, because we always wanted them to have the right environment that was best for them at the time. Now they were pretty stable and in one or two options there, but and that's because moms have a heart for their kids, right? Moms passionately want to do what's right for their kids. And when I was, as a political commentator, and I've been in politics for years, reading what was happening last year around this time, and I would go on my walks and just weep over what kids were being exposed to, what moms were having to deal with. And so really coming on board with Moms for America and actually launching this program, Mom Force, in order to equip and mentor moms that are pushing back at schools, it came from my heart. So it got to couple with my experience, but it was my mom heart that wanted me to come alongside and help these moms with their kids.
Yeah. So you all were started in 2004,
Yes.
correct? Yes. You've been around for a while.
Yes.
You've seen a lot of changes
Yes.
in America. How did we get to the point where we are at today, where you have all of these things like critical race theory
Yes.
being taught in schools, and increasingly, transgender ideology being promoted to our kids?
Yes.
How did we get here?
Right. I like to say this is not a conspiracy and it's not a theory, because it's provable by historical fact that the Frankfurt School and gentlemen from that arena in Germany and Austria, they wanted to bring communism to the West and the Marxist ideals, but they knew they wouldn't be able to do it through weapons of war, that they had to basically wage a culture war. And so some of the critical things there are to break down the family, eventually where parents don't even have rights over their children. And there was a recent article in the Ventura Star, it was an op-ed, where this guy was saying, if we're going to achieve true equity, which of course we know is a huge school agenda, equity versus equal opportunity, if we're going to achieve that, he said, we have to take children away from parents. It was in black and white. Now it's an op-ed, but it's in black and white. Denver Public Schools, BLM is, they're coming in and they're engaging with kindergartners, and they're talking about just, how the nuclear family is not the best option. So we see these agendas playing out. They came to America in the 20s. They engaged with John Dewey. He was very much an education activist. And this type of curriculum and philosophy, and CRT, of course, was born around that time. And I always say it's not a curriculum, it's a culture. So teachers are trained and they bring it into everything that is taught. This division by race and by color, because of course it is racism, because it divides children by color. So I've mentioned to you these things. Then there's also, how do you break down a republic? You create immorality. Our founder said, our country can only survive with moral leaders. That is, direct quotes from our founders as they talked about, the fragility of this republic. If you don't have good moral leaders that are honest and just and true, they're not perfect, but they have basics. then you can't keep a republic. So we see all these attacks, and then you train the next generation, you weave all of this into the school, and we have proof of that. All these things are in our schools, and we want our kids to learn reading, writing, arithmetic, be competent, accurate history, good science, good literature, right? I mean, it's pretty basic what parents want.
Yeah. Well, and as you're talking, it's really easy to get discouraged and think, gosh, what do we do about this? Because as a parent, I'm sure it feels like, well, I'm busy, I can't go off and run for Congress or something, but I obviously want my kids to be protected. I want them to be raised with good values. What are the solutions, the practical solutions?
Yes. You mentioned how busy moms are. Gosh, any of us that are moms, we know how busy it is. And both parents usually have to work in families. And so taking on a political activism or, a community engagement, just for many, many, many years, suburban moms largely were not engaged for that reason. But then when they, all the lockdowns were there, the kids couldn't go to school. They had to do school online. And you had parents looking over the shoulders of their children in 2021 and being shocked at scarletine, a link given to children that is from Planned Parenthood, part of sex ed. Literally, I've seen it myself, so this is firsthand knowledge. And they're teaching kids sadomasochism and how they can make little whips and things at home with stuff they have in the kitchen junk drawer. So this is how bad it became, and a lot of us, and a lot of parents just didn't know it was happening. So to solve that, we have wonderful states, like we're here in Florida. Let's just talk about the parents' rights. Of course, we already have a parental rights bill that was passed in Florida, but this is also parents' rights in education. And it just passed the House, I believe, yesterday here in Florida. And it basically, you would think this would be a no-brainer, but it basically signs it, if the governor signs it and it goes through the Senate and passes there and then is signed, it will prevent schools from teaching and pushing gender identity changes K through third. And I'm thinking to myself, we live in the twilight zone, that we actually have to have a law for that, and yet we do. And then we've got another CRT bill. There's many of them across the country. They have to have the right language, though, otherwise they get very weak. In Indiana, and we have Republican legislators there that have bowed to the pressure of teachers' unions and already gutted that bill. So we have a big fight on our hands, but we are seriously considering operating out of our C4 this year and really engaging moms. So watch out, teachers' unions, because you think you have a voice and you can hit buttons and send 1,000, get 1,000 people to send an email to the legislator. We're going to probably quadruple that and have more influence over those legislators, because there's more of us than there are of you in the end. These moms just can't put up with it. So yes.
Well, and for young women like myself who don't have kids yet,
yes.
I often find myself increasingly having conversations with friends, with my sister about, okay, how should we be preparing even right now?
Yes.
To have hard conversations with our kids, because there's things that, gosh, my parents never had to deal with, but that now young women today we're going to have to deal with, thinking about how do we navigate this with our own kids. So what would be your advice to young women today?
Yes. I think before you have children, it's a really great time. By the time my son was 5 and he's 32 and married now, I had, of course, that was back when we had paper files, right? I had paper files this thick of what educational options were out there for him. So I was like one of those, really, those kind of moms. By the time he was 3, actually, I had that. And so, it's a very important decision, and it's really good to do your research ahead of time so that you are prepared and you've thought it through. I think that is such a good question. And, for some moms, they're not going to be able to have their kids in a private school or a charter school or homeschool because of their life circumstances. In those cases, you want to just be very engaged. Really early on, have your kids open dialogue with you about what's happening. Tell them what's happening in the school, what to watch out for. Encourage them. You're strong, you're powerful. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. If the teacher says this, you don't have to do that. Yes, do your math. But, if they start talking about this, so do those mom moments every single day if you have your kids in school. But really really look at other education options, and we have all those on our website, really excellent opportunities. And a lot of moms are doing pods now, like working career women that share the responsibility. They do an excellent online classical, education program, and they trade off and maybe take one day a week each to kind of just oversee the classroom, if you will. But you've got the online program that gives you the support, and they also have people that help. So, homeschooling has just about doubled. I mean, it's 11% now, but historically we've had 90% of kids in public education. So now we're more around 80%. The thing is, though, that's not going to change that much. So we really have to have both options for the moms.
Yeah. Well, we certainly encourage everyone to check out your website, momsforamerica.us.
Yes.
Perfect. Momsforamerica.us. Tamara, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.